My mom refused to help while my wife was screaming in labor, after I paid their bills for 6 straight years, so I walked away and left them begging. I'm 31, my name's Brian, and I've been married to my wife Emily for 6 years. We've got a 3-year-old daughter named Madison, and just a couple months ago our son was born. That's when everything came to a head, but let me back up, because this wasn't some sudden fallout. This was years in the making. My family never liked Emily, not even from day one. They didn't try to hide it either. The reason? She doesn't go to their church. My parents are the hyper-religious type, Sunday morning, Sunday evening, Wednesday night, plus Bible study, plus judging anyone who doesn't follow their exact beliefs. My mom used to toss out these passive-aggressive lines like, "We're praying for you both to find your way back to the Lord." Or she'd ask Emily, "When do you think you'll get right with God?" Emily would just smile and let it slide because she's classy like that. Honestly, far classier than me. Both of my parents are retired. My dad spent over 40 years working in a tire factory in Akron, Ohio, and my mom was a receptionist at an insurance office. They get by on Social Security, but let's be real, it's not enough for the lifestyle they insist on keeping. So guess who's been funding that? For 5 years straight, I've been paying their $1,300.00 mortgage, covering $300.00 to $400. 0 cents in utilities, their $200.00 cell phone plan, and tossing in grocery money on top of that. All in, that's around $2,000 a month, every single month. Coming out of my pocket. Emily never complained. Not once. Even though that money could have gone toward moving to a better school district or boosting our savings, she'd just say, "They're your parents," and leave it at that. She's a damn saint. My sister? Completely different story. Megan has always been the golden child. Growing up, she got everything while I got the leftovers. She got a brand new car for her 16th birthday. I got, "You can borrow Mom's car if you fill the tank." I worked at a car wash for 3 years to save up for a beat-up Civic that broke down every month. Now Megan's married to some finance guy named Brad who comes from old money. They live in one of those cookie-cutter suburbs outside Chicago, where every house has 3 garage bays and all the lawns are regulation length. She doesn't work, just posts boy-mom content on Instagram, complete with Bible verses and Joanna Gaines quotes. She's got 3 sons and a feed full of curated chaos and blessed captions that make me want to delete my apps. Despite the fact that Megan and Brad easily make 3 or 4 times what Emily and I bring in, Emily and I both work modest jobs in education and tech support. My parents still expected me to carry them financially. Why? Megan has her hands full with the boys, they'd say, or they've got a big house to maintain. Meanwhile, they're off on Disney cruises and ski trips, while I'm over here counting quarters just to cover my mortgage and their bills. We live in a humble little 3-bedroom outside Dayton. Drive 2 used cars we paid off years ago. Vacations, maybe a weekend in Gatlinburg once a year. That's about it. The rest of our extra cash either went to my parents or into the college savings accounts for our kids. Emily never said a word against it, even though she had every reason to. She just kept saying, "It's family." I'd tried talking to Megan about helping with Mom and Dad, and she always had an excuse. Private school for the boys is expensive. We're putting in a new pool. Brad's bonus hasn't come through yet. Every time I brought it up with my parents, they shut me down. "Your sister has different responsibilities," they'd say. Somehow mine always included writing them checks. But honestly, the worst part wasn't the money. It was the utter lack of appreciation. I'd hand my mom the mortgage check, and instead of a thank you, I'd get, "Madison needs to wear a thicker coat," or "Tell Emily she's always welcome at church if she wants to redeem herself." Meanwhile, Megan would waltz in empty-handed, and they'd throw a parade for her. Every holiday, every family gathering. It was like that. My wife would offer to help in the kitchen and get handed a bag of rolls to warm up. Megan would sit on the couch scrolling TikTok, and everyone acted like she was running a damn orphanage. I kept telling myself this was just what family does. You show up, you help out. I told myself if I stopped helping, I'd be branded the selfish son, the ungrateful one, the failure. Megan made sure I never forgot it either, always with that sweet but condescending tone. Brian's so generous, like it was some performance. But things started shifting when Emily got pregnant with our second child. The cracks were impossible to ignore. My parents barely reacted when we told them. Megan didn't even send a text. Meanwhile, Emily was working full-time, dealing with prenatal appointments, raising our toddler, while I kept up my job and covered my parents' bills. Every time I hinted that I was burning out, Mom would say, "God provides," and Megan would chime in with, "You knew what you signed up for." Then came the night everything finally broke. Emily went into labor 3 weeks early. It was 2 a.m. and she was in full-blown pain. I was running around the house like a lunatic, grabbing the hospital bag, keys, and trying to figure out what to do with Madison. Our regular babysitter's a college kid. We weren't about to call her at 2 a.m. So I called my mom. For the first time ever, I asked her to watch Madison, just for a few hours, just until sunrise. That's all. This wasn't a favor for a vacation or a date night. This was an emergency. "Mom," I said, trying to stay calm, "Emily's in labor. We need someone to stay with Madison for a few hours while we go to the hospital." There was a pause. Then, "Oh, honey, I just can't tonight. My arthritis is flaring up bad. I can't even get out of bed." I felt the panic rising. "Mom, I'll bring her to you." "She's asleep. She won't need anything. It's only for a few hours." She sighed again. No, I just can't. I'm in too much pain. You know how active she is. Madison is the calmest kid I've ever met. She sits and colors for hours, but none of that mattered. That was the moment something snapped in me. I knew then. I knew. I wasn't family. I was a wallet with a last name. Emily was gripping the edge of the kitchen counter, trying to breathe through a contraction, and I'm standing there in the middle of our house, begging my own mother for a sliver of help she clearly never intended to give. Desperate, I shot a text to Megan. "Emergency. Emily's in labor. Needs someone to watch Madison for a few hours." I saw the typing dots pop up almost immediately. For a second, I felt a flicker of hope. Then her reply came. "This is really bad timing. We've got an early morning with the boys and I need sleep. Sorry, can't help." That was it. No good luck, no congrats. Just a quick brush off like I was asking her to water my plants. Not that my wife was literally about to give birth to their nephew. I shoved my phone in my pocket and started calling everyone I could think of. Most didn't answer. It was 2:30 in the morning after all. But then my friend Mike picked up. This guy lives 30 minutes away and works a physical job that starts at 7 a.m., but the second I told him what was going on, he said, "I'm on my way." No hesitation, no guilt trip, just, "I've got you." That's when I realized something important. Family isn't just blood. It's who shows up when it counts. Mike got to our house by 3 a.m. Emily was now having contractions every 4 minutes. We rushed to the hospital, barely made it in time. At 5:13 a.m. our son was born. He was a little early but healthy. Emily was incredible, strong, calm, focused. I couldn't stop staring at her, even through my exhaustion. She had just gone through hell and there she was, holding our son like nothing else mattered. Around noon I drove to pick Madison up from Mike's house. His wife had taken the day off to help watch her. She made pancakes for breakfast, braided her hair, let her pick a movie. My daughter was smiling like she'd just been at summer camp. These people, angels. On the way back to the hospital, I remembered the spare car seat base we kept at my parents' house. They almost never watched Madison, but we kept it there just in case. I figured I'd just swing by, grab it, and go. I had a key because I was the one always fixing their leaky sink or changing their HVAC filters. I walked in around dinner time. What I saw stopped me cold. There was a full-on family dinner happening in the dining room. My parents, Megan, her husband Brad, their 3 boys. Table set, wine poured, food steaming on the plates. My mom, who apparently couldn't walk that morning due to arthritis, was literally chasing my nephew around the living room, laughing as he squealed with joy. The second they saw me, the whole room went quiet. The laughter died, like someone hit a mute button. My mom's face shifted from guilty to annoyed in 2 seconds flat, like I was the one interrupting something. "Oh, we weren't expecting you," she said, voice clipped. "How's everything?" Not one person asked about Emily, not one asked about the baby. Megan gave me this tight smile, like I'd just farted in church. My dad avoided eye contact altogether. I stood there in my same clothes from the night before, completely sleep-deprived and emotionally fried, and something inside me snapped. "So," I said, calm but shaking, "you were too sick to help your son when his wife was giving birth, but you're totally fine hosting a dinner party?" My mom bristled. "It's not a dinner party, it's just family. Your sister needed help with the boys today." I glanced at Megan, who suddenly found the mashed potatoes very interesting. "Her husband's literally right there," I said. "He doesn't even work Fridays." But sure, she needed help. My dad tried to jump in. "Your mother's been on her feet all day. She's pushing through the pain to help your sister." That broke me. I started to laugh, not happy laughter, the bitter kind. "But she couldn't push through it for me? For her grandchild being born?" My mom waved me off with that same dismissive motion she always used when I was a kid. "That's different." "How?" I asked. I already knew the answer. "Because it's me asking? Because Emily isn't good enough for you? Because we don't parade around with a Bible in one hand and an Instagram filter in the other?" Brad looked like he wanted to disappear. The kids had all gone quiet. Megan stood up, hands out like a hostage negotiator. Okay, let's not turn this into a scene," she said, shooting a glance at Brad's parents, who were also at the table. "You're obviously upset. Why don't you just go home, cool off, and we'll talk later, okay?" Like I was some deranged man off the street, ruining their nice meal. I wasn't done. I turned toward Megan. "You don't care that I've paid their bills for 6 years. You don't care that I've been killing myself trying to make sure everyone else is okay. You just care that I showed up and said something you can't spin with a hashtag." Her in-laws looked deeply uncomfortable now, like they were finally getting a glimpse of what had really been going on. Megan hissed at me low enough that only I could hear. "Can you not do this right now?" "No," I said. "I am doing this right now because I'm done. I'm done being the backup plan, the piggy bank, the afterthought. You all made your priorities clear, and now I'm making mine." I turned to my parents. "You didn't need me at 2 a.m., but you need me when the mortgage is due? That's not family, that's a transaction." My mom tried to cry. "I wasn't lying, I just—" "Save it," I snapped. "I get it, I always have. I was just too stupid to admit it." Then I walked over to the closet, grabbed the car seat base, and headed for the door, but I stopped. "Oh, and by the way, don't expect that mortgage payment next month, or ever again. You're on your own now." My mom gasped like I'd slapped her. "You can't do that. We're your parents." I met her eyes, cold and steady. "Watch me." I got into my car, and for a moment I couldn't even put the key in the ignition. My hands were shaking that badly. 6 years of being the reliable son, the good one, the provider, and with one sentence I'd cut it all off. I expected to feel guilt. I expected the weight of everything to crash down on me, but all I felt was relief. For the first time in years, I wasn't drowning in obligations that had never been mine to begin with. I picked up Emily and the baby from the hospital later that day, then got Madison from Mike's house. She was thrilled to meet her new baby brother. Emily looked at me closely, and I could tell she knew something had happened. I told her everything on the way home. She didn't say much, just reached over, took my hand, and said, "It's about time." That night, after the kids were in bed and Emily was resting, I pulled out my laptop. I logged into every single account connected to my parents. Mortgage? Canceled. Utilities? Disconnected. Cell phone plan? Removed. Grocery auto payments? Deleted. One by one, I cut the lifelines I'd been keeping open for them. Years of silent financial support burnt within less than 30 minutes. With each cancellation, I felt a little lighter, like I was shedding a skin I never asked to wear. The next morning, my phone looked like it had exploded. 17 missed calls, over 30 text messages. I scrolled through just in case one of them had something to do with an actual emergency. But no, it was all what I expected. My mom's texts started off dramatic. "How could you do this to us? You humiliated us in front of everyone." Then came the guilt. "We're so worried about you. You're not acting like yourself." And by the end, the threats started. "Your father's talking to his lawyer friend about what you've done." What exactly had I done? Stopped giving them free money? Good luck taking that to court. Megan's texts were next-level delusional. Everything was about how I ruined a nice family dinner, how I embarrassed Mom, and how I had always been so jealous of her. Not a single mention of Emily or the baby. Not a word about her new nephew. I didn't reply. I just blocked their numbers. All of them. Then the ripple effect hit. My aunt, my mom's sister, called me from a number I didn't recognize. She left a voicemail saying the whole family was concerned and that I needed to make things right before it's too late. Then people from their church started calling. People I'd spoken to maybe twice in my life. One lady actually quoted scripture at me, saying I was breaking the commandment to honor my father and mother. I blocked her mid-lecture. The best call came from a woman who said my mom hadn't slept in days because she was so distraught. I laughed and said, "Well, now she knows what it's like to be up all night with a newborn." Then I hung up. Through all of this, Emily was a rock. She was still healing from delivery, still caring for our newborn around the clock, and somehow still managed to keep Madison entertained and the house from falling apart. She didn't question my decision once. She just kept saying, "I'm proud of you." And that was more validation than I'd ever gotten from my own parents. A week after the blow-up, Megan showed up at our house. Thankfully, I was at work. Emily texted me while it was happening. Megan rang the doorbell over and over, then started yelling through the mail slot like a lunatic. Emily didn't answer. She just stayed calm and updated me while making sure the kids were safe. Our neighbor eventually came over and asked Megan if she needed the police called. Apparently that was enough to make her bail. Haven't seen her since. But the fallout didn't stop there. About 3 weeks after I cut everything off, my dad managed to get a call through from a new number I hadn't blocked yet. "The electric company says they're going to shut off our power," he said, skipping right over any greeting. "The mortgage company's threatening to start foreclosure." He didn't flinch. "That sounds like a problem you need to solve," I told him. "We're your parents. You can't just leave us high and dry," he said. "What are we supposed to do?" "You could get a part-time job," I suggested. Mom could babysit for pay instead of doing it for free for Megan. "You could sell that boat you never use. You could downsize to a smaller place. You have options." "At our age, who's going to hire us?" he asked. "Walmart hires greeters. Home Depot has plenty of retirees. Or ask Megan. Ask your golden child." There was a long pause. "Your sister has her own expenses." "So do I, Dad, like a newborn, and you've had dinner with her more in the past year than you've even called me. Figure it out." Then I hung up and blocked that number too. About a month later, my dad sent me an email. The subject line read, "Health Emergency." My heart dropped. Despite everything, I still cared. I still had that reflex, what if something serious happened? I opened it, only to find a long guilt trip about how my mom's blood pressure was dangerously high due to stress and how the doctor said she could have a stroke if things continued this way. The email ended with, "We just thought you should know what you're doing to your mother." I didn't respond, but I forwarded it to Megan with a one-line message, "Your turn." She never replied. Meanwhile, my actual family, Emily, Madison, and our new baby, Jacob, were thriving. He started sleeping in 3-hour chunks, which felt like we'd won the lottery. Madison loved being a big sister and helped Emily in adorable ways, like fetching diapers and singing lullabies. Emily's parents came for a week to help out, and it was actually peaceful. They cooked meals, helped with the kids, and, get this, never asked for money, never made passive-aggressive remarks. It was like living in a different world. 2 months after the confrontation, we were finally finding our rhythm as a family of 4. And for the first time in years, we were saving money, real savings. No more draining our account to keep up appearances. We even started looking for a new place in a better school district. Nothing fancy, just something with a good yard and space for the kids to grow. Then, one Saturday morning, I was outside with Madison, teaching her how to ride her new bike without training wheels. She was fearless, laughing every time she wobbled. That's when a car I didn't recognize pulled up to the curb. Out stepped my parents. At first, I thought it was just someone turning around in the driveway, but when I saw them step out, my dad in an old windbreaker, my mom clutching her purse like it held the solution to all their problems, I felt the muscles in my shoulders tense. Madison spotted them before I could react. "Grandma! Grandpa!" she yelled, smiling, because of course to her, everything was still innocent. My mom's expression changed instantly. She plastered on this sugary sweet smile that didn't reach her eyes and started walking toward Madison with her arms open. I stepped in front of her before she got too close. "What are you doing here?" I asked, keeping my voice calm for Madison's sake.
We came to see our grandchildren, my mom said, like that should have been obvious. Especially the new baby. We haven't even met him yet. "You're not invited," I replied, "and you're not seeing the baby." My dad stepped forward, hands shoved in his jacket pockets. "Son, your mother's been beside herself. She just wants to meet her grandson. We both do." I didn't move. I didn't soften. She lost that privilege when she lied about being too sick to help and then hosted a dinner party. You tried to pick Madison up from preschool last week without our permission. Don't think I didn't hear about that. My mom had the nerve to act shocked. "It was a misunderstanding." "No, it was manipulation," I said, keeping my voice low but firm. "You can't worm your way back in just because the bills are piling up. This isn't about family. This is about money. Again." Emily opened the front door just then, holding Jacob. One look at my parents, and she immediately stepped back inside and shut it. That, more than anything, seemed to rattle them. My dad cleared his throat, his tone suddenly shifting. "The bank is threatening foreclosure," he said. "We didn't know what else to do." I looked at him for a long moment. "Have you asked Megan?" My mom mumbled something about how Megan was saving for a pool. Of course she was. I shook my head. "I'm not your backup plan anymore." "You didn't even know Jacob's name until 2 seconds ago. And now that you do, you've already used it as leverage." That must have stung because my mom's voice turned sharp. "We're your parents." "And James," I said, cutting her off, "is named after someone who actually gave a damn about me. Grandpa James. Remember him? He was the only one who showed up for my science fairs, my football games, my wedding. He never once asked for a dime." My mom started crying again, reaching for any emotional card she had left. "We're going to lose the house." "That's on you," I said, unmoved. "Not me, not Emily, and not our kids." Then came the final, desperate play. "We have rights," she hissed. "Grandparents have rights. We'll go to court if we have to." I stepped forward slightly, my face inches from hers. "You can try," I said quietly. "But if you think a judge is going to side with the people who ignored a pregnant daughter-in-law, ditched their own son during labor, and tried to abduct a child from daycare, be my guest." My dad saw it was over. "Come on," he muttered, gently tugging her arm. She didn't budge at first, just stood there staring at me like I'd driven a knife through her. Eventually, she turned, and they got back in the car. As they pulled away, I overheard her say, "We should have gone to a lawyer first." I stood in the driveway, breathing deep. Emily came out a moment later, Jacob nestled in her arms. "Are you okay?" she asked softly.
For the first time in years, I didn't have to lie. "Yeah," I said, "I actually am." A few weeks later, I heard through a mutual friend that my parents had taken their desperation to a new level. Apparently, they showed up uninvited to a formal dinner Megan and Brad were hosting for his parents. They pulled the same act. My mom cried about being abandoned, claimed they were about to be homeless because their ungrateful son had turned cold. What they didn't expect was for Brad to finally speak up.
According to my friend, Brad looked right at them and said, "I remember that night. I remember how you lied about being too sick to help and then threw a dinner party while Brian's wife was giving birth. I was there." The whole room went silent. My mom tried to play it off like a misunderstanding, but Brad's dad, who apparently doesn't tolerate nonsense, cut in and asked, "Why don't you downsize or get part-time jobs? That's what most people do." My dad mumbled something about their age. Brad's mom replied that her own father still stocked shelves part-time at 75. That was when Megan finally panicked. She jumped in to defend them, but Brad wasn't having it. He asked her point blank, "If they mean so much to you, why have you never helped them? Why has it always been your brother?" They had a huge fight right there in front of his parents. The next day, Megan called me in a rage. No hello, no buildup, just screaming. "You ruined everything," she shouted so loudly. I had to pull the phone away from my ear. Asked, "What are you even talking about?" She lost it. Said I'd turned her in-laws against her on purpose, that I'd always been jealous of her life, that I was sabotaging her marriage out of spite. She accused me of playing the martyr for years just to make her look bad. "My marriage is falling apart, and it's all your fault," she screamed before hanging up. I just stared at the screen afterwards, stunned. Even now, even with her life unraveling, she couldn't admit her own part in any of it. From what I've heard since, Megan and Brad are now in counseling. My parents had to sell their house and move into a small apartment. My dad got a part-time job greeting people at a big box store. Megan refused to let them move in with her, even though she's got 4 empty bedrooms. The final straw came when my mom asked her to sell one of her designer handbags to help with bills. She apparently screamed that all of this was my fault. Funny how quickly that golden child shine wears off when the money dries up and the backup plan, me, stops playing along. It's been 6 months now. Jacob's crawling all over the place, pulling himself up on furniture and trying to explore every corner of the house. Madison started kindergarten a few weeks ago, and she absolutely loves it. She comes home every day with crayon drawings and stories about her new best friends. Emily and I, we're doing better than ever. We finally moved out of our cramped 3-bedroom rental and into a modest 4-bedroom home in a much better school district. It's nothing extravagant, but it has a fenced yard for the kids, a small office for me, and a kitchen Emily actually enjoys cooking in. The wild part, the mortgage on this new place is still lower than what we were paying before, especially when you factor in what we used to send to my parents every month. Last weekend, we took the kids to the park. The weather was perfect, just that early fall crispness in the air that makes everything feel a little more alive. I was pushing Madison on the swing while Emily sat nearby on a bench with Jacob in her lap. He was gurgling happily, eyes locked on the sky, hands waving at passing birds like they were there just for him. That's when it hit me. This moment right here is what family should feel like. Not guilt, not obligation, not endless demands masked as love, just peace, presence, joy. For so long, I thought being a good son meant giving until it hurt. I thought family meant sacrifice, even when the scales were never balanced. But standing there in that park, hearing my daughter squeal with delight and watching my wife kiss our son's forehead, I realized something I should have figured out a long time ago. Sometimes standing up for yourself isn't about shouting. It isn't about dramatic exits or slamming doors. Sometimes it's about quietly choosing peace. It's about realizing that the people who share your last name aren't always the people who deserve your energy, your time, your love. Sometimes they are just the people who knew you when and used that history as a leash. Since cutting ties, I haven't looked back. Sure, there are moments when guilt creeps in, Birthdays come and go without a call. Holidays feel a little quieter. But the silence? It's peaceful. It's clean. And in that quiet, I've found space to be the husband and father I always wanted to be. Without the noise, without the manipulation, without the drain. Madison doesn't ask about my parents much anymore. When she does, I tell her the truth in age-appropriate ways. That some people love you the way they should, and some people don't, and it's okay to walk away from the ones who make you feel small. She seems to get it more than I expected for a 5-year-old. Kids are smart like that. As for Megan, I haven't spoken to her since her screaming phone call. Word is her marriage is still rocky. Brad's parents apparently pulled back financially, choosing to support their son directly instead of propping up a toxic family dynamic. Megan's Instagram has gone quieter, less curated. No more perfect brunches or sparkling pool shots, just occasional reposts of motivational quotes and outdated photos of her kids, probably from better times. I don't revel in their struggles. I really don't. But I'm also not responsible for fixing them. Not anymore. My parents, still living in that cramped apartment across town. I haven't driven past it, haven't felt the urge. A cousin told me my dad works weekends now and my mom rarely leaves the house. Whether they've learned anything from all this, I don't know. Maybe they still think I'm the villain. Maybe they're waiting for me to come crawling back, to resume the role of dutiful son, to reopen the checkbook, but they'll be waiting a long time. Because here's the truth. I've already given them more than they ever gave me. And now I'm giving all of that to the people who actually deserve it. My wife, my children, my real family. The ones who don't see me as a resource or a disappointment. They're the ones who see me, a Matt. That's enough. That's everything.